A player got sent off at the 2026 World Cup for covering his mouth. No shove, no tackle, no fist. He put his hand over his mouth while talking to an opponent, and the referee showed him a straight red card. It happened in the 45th minute of Turkey versus Paraguay, and it might be the strangest red card in World Cup history. But here's the thing. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't even controversial technically. It was a brand new FIFA rule used for the very first time on the biggest stage in football. So what is this rule? Why does it exist, and what does it mean for the rest of the tournament? Let's break it down. Let's set the scene. Group D, second match day, 2026 World Cup. Turkey needs a result against Paraguay to keep their qualification hopes alive. It starts badly. Paraguay striker Matias Galarza scores inside the opening minutes, one of the earliest goals of the tournament. Turkey are chasing the game from almost the first whistle. Through the first half, Turkey push forward. Arda Güler, Hakan Çalhanoğlu, and Mert Müldür all test the Paraguayan goal. Müldür even hits the post and the crossbar on the same header, but the score stays 1-0. Then, in stoppage time of the first half, the 45+3 mark, something happens off the ball. Paraguay's Miguel Almiron and Turkey's Mert Müldür exchange words. Nothing unusual about that. Players talk during matches all the time. Except Almiron does something specific. While speaking to Müldür, he covers his mouth with his hand. The referee, Ivan Barton, doesn't react immediately, but VAR flags it. Barton jogs to the screen, reviews the footage, and walks back onto the pitch with a red card already in his hand. Almiron is sent off. Paraguay, already leading, now has to defend the rest of the match with 10 men. This might sound like a small, technical tweak, but it fits a pattern. Football's governing bodies have spent the last several years trying to crack down on things that
players nose to nose, the kind of confrontation football has produced a million times before. One player leans in, says something, and covers his mouth with his hand while he says it. At any previous World Cup, that gesture would have meant almost nothing. A bit of gamesmanship, maybe, the kind of thing a commentator might not even mention. At this World Cup, it can get you sent off. Straight red card, no second chance, no warning. Just gone. That's one of the new rules quietly reshaping this tournament, and it's already got fans and pundits talking, microphones or match officials to verify exactly what was said. It became, as it was described at the time, a case of one player's word against another's. No definitive proof either way. Prestiani was provisionally suspended while an investigation took place. But the underlying issue remained unresolved because the evidence simply didn't exist. That single moment, replayed and debated for weeks afterward, became the catalyst for change. Because if a player can simply shield their mouth every time they say something controversial, the sport has no real mechanism for accountability. FIFA President Gianni Infantino addressed it directly not long after, telling Sky News that if a player covers his mouth and says something with a racist consequence, he has to be sent off. The International Football Association Board took up the issue at one of its meetings, and from there it moved quickly toward becoming an actual law of the game. Here's where things get interesting, because the rule as written is broader than just the racism angle that triggered it.
So what happens now? First, expect more of these. This was the first application of the rule at a World Cup. It almost certainly won't be the last. Every player is now aware of it, in every match going forward. From here on, there's a new flashpoint to watch for in every game. Any player who walks up to an opponent and covers their mouth is now a potential VAR review waiting to happen. That could even change the psychology of matches. Players might start avoiding that classic whisper in the ear gesture altogether because now it looks suspicious even when it's a completely harmless tactical instruction. Second, expect debate about consistency, and it doesn't look like an easy one to settle. Critics will ask, how do you separate a player genuinely hurling abuse from a player, just shielding a tactical instruction, or harmless trash talk meant to rattle an opponent without crossing any line? Two players can make the exact same gesture, hand over the mouth, while one is saying tighten the marking and the other is hurling an insult. This rule puts a huge amount of trust in referees and VAR teams to read intent from a gesture, and there's no guarantee that trust will always be used correctly. There's also a real risk different referees interpret the same gesture differently, which would fuel accusations of inconsistent application. Third, and maybe most important, this is bigger than one match or one red card. Modern football is being shaped more and more by what cameras and microphones can almost catch but can't quite prove. Technology on the pitch isn't just measuring whether the ball crossed the line anymore. It's now scrutinizing players' intent, their words, their gestures. Sin bins, cards for dissent toward referees, body cam experiments, and now this. They all point in the same direction. The sport is slowly building rules, not just around what players do on the pitch, but around what they try to hide. Which brings up a bigger question. Is this a step in the right direction, or part of a wider trend of referees and VAR overreaching into the game? Fans have complained for years that VAR disrupts the flow of football. Now the debate gets a new layer, reading intent itself. A World Cup match was decided, or at least defined, by a rule almost nobody outside FIF's rulebook knew existed 24 hours earlier. That's not just a footnote about one red card. That's a live preview of where football's disciplinary system is heading, and likely the start of a conversation we'll be having a lot more in the years ahead. If you're just hearing about this rule for the first time, you're not alone. That's exactly why it became the story of the match. Let me know in the comments. Is this a smart fix to a real loophole, or too much power in the referee's hands? Subscribe for more breakdowns like this throughout the tournament.